Hello everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. So in today video we are going to understand about what is AWS NAT Gateway. So NAT stands for Network Address Translations. Basically this service we will get as part of our virtual private cloud. So let's understand what is NAT Gateway. So before moving to a NAT gateway, first we will understand what problem this particular service or NAT gateway is going to fix for us. So imagine if you have a EC2 instance in your private subnet and you need to download some packages or softwares from the internet. But as it is private subnet, you can't do that. So to resolve this particular problem, we use a NAT gateway. So what happened in NAT gateway basically? If you use a NAT gateway, then is from the EC2 instance you can download the package, but who is sitting on the internet, or maybe we can say in other words, from the internet we can't see our our EC2 instance. So it's basically a one-way communication or one-way traffic basically will flow with the help of NAT gateway. So basically the solution here which I have provided here, the NAT gateway basically act as a bridge which allow your private instance to access the internet while keeping them invisible from the outside. So this is what I told, like you can access the internet from EC2 instance, but if somebody try to access your EC2 instance from the internet, then they can't access it because for them that will not be visible itself, because that is in our private subnet. So let's understand more with the help of this particular diagram. So we have this, sorry, let me take a pencil. So this is our AWS region where we have our VPC. There could be a many VPCs. So we have one VPC, and as part of VPC we have two subnet, public subnet and private subnet. Public subnet means whatever the resources we will create here, that will have a internet connectivity, and whatever the resources we will create as part of private subnet, those resources will not have a internet connectivity. So what happened when this particular EC2 instance who is sitting inside the private subnet, if this particular instance wants to download some sort of package from the internet, then we set up a NAT gateway. So what we do generally, we create a NAT gateway and we place the NAT gateway in private subnet, and private subnet anyways we have a internet gateway attached, so we can access or basically the resources which are part of public subnet, then those resources basically can access the internet gateway as well. But here we are focusing on NAT gateway. So what happened when we create a NAT gateway, we have to update a route table as well for each subnet. So like for public subnet, we will have a public subnet route tables where basically we will allow internet traffic to the internet gateway. And similarly in private subnet, we have to allow all the internet bound traffic to a NAT gateway. So what gateway does basically, it will translate private IP address to its own public IP address, and it will send a response to a internet. As soon as they will receive a response from the internet, what it does, it will receive a response on NAT gateway IP address, and then it will translate back to our private IP address. So this is a little more confusing. So let's do one thing. Let's understand with the help of diagram. So suppose this particular private EC2 instance have this IP address 10.0.2.0. So from this particular IP, for example, I'm just taking an example. Suppose this EC2 instance has this IP address. Then when the request goes from this private subnet to NAT route tables or NAT route table or private subnet route table where we have defined the NAT routes. So the NAT route which we defined a internet bound traffic. So for internet bound traffic, what we have to do, we have to add a rule starting from 0.0.0/0 to NAT gateway which we create. So what happened? This NAT gateway basically translate this a private IP address to its own public IP address. Suppose this NAT gateway have a 3.2.1.4 something. This is the public IP address. So as soon as the network or as soon as the traffic comes from on this particular IP address, or the response basically, so this IP address again translate back to the public IP address. So what is happening in background? The traffic will flow from the private IP address to NAT gateway. NAT gateway use its own public IP address and send a request to the internet. And once this NAT gateway receive a response from the internet, it will again translate its own public IP address to a private IP address and send a traffic or send a request back to this private subnet. So that's how basically a NAT gateway works. So the main requirement to set up a NAT gateway is NAT gateways, you should have a public subnet. Public subnet, for public subnet what we do generally, we will attach a internet gateway. So here in this scenario we have to add two routes. One route, or we have to update, in other words we have to update two route tables. One route table for private subnet where we will add a route to internet bound traffic to NAT gateway, and another rule here in public subnet we will add internet bound traffic to internet gateway. So that's how basically a traffic flow when you configure a NAT gateway. So NAT gateway is basically useful when you have a private resources or private subnet and you want to access internet from those resources. In that case you can use a NAT gateway. So I hope it's clear. In case if you want to know how we can set up, or you want to see a complete implementation of this particular architecture, for that I have already created a video that I will reference in a description box, so you can go and watch out. So that's all for today. See you next video. Thank you so much.